What's up guys, Eli here, back for another CD collection video. For those of you that are new to this channel, first of all, hello. But yeah, what I do here is I just grab 10 CDs off my shelf, pretty much, all loosely alphabetized, and I just go from there. These aren't reviews necessarily, I just kind of show, this is just to show what I have in my collection, and I might talk about it for a minute. Starting with the only album I have from this band, and that I've ever really even heard, to be honest. We're talking about Ildra. They're like a doom death band. Metal Archives has them listed as doom death / crust. I'm not really a crust guy by any means, but I do like some good doom death metal. So Ildra formed in 2008 in Washington, D.C. This is their 5th album from 2018, Corpse Fortress. I have listened to this once or twice over the last 4 years, and I think it is pretty good. It's not something I gravitate towards very often, I gotta say. I know this band had a little bit of hype on their first couple of albums, and it's pretty cool. I can say that this is not your typical doom death metal, which might be, I hate to say it, but might be why I'm not super into it. I kind of like just typical doom death metal. This is more, it sounds like doom death played by people that maybe grew up in the hardcore scene or the punk scene. And for that, like I said, for me, it's a little different, and it's cool in that matter, but it's kind of just not quite my cup of tea. Still a good album. What do you guys think about Ildra? Next band we'll be talking about is Impaled. Impaled are a death metal band formed in 1995 in Oakland, California. For years and years, I thought I had all 3 of their albums. Turns out they have 4. Yes, that is Louis under the blanket right there. Turns out they had 4 albums, and I just now learned that when doing a little bit of research. So I'm gonna have to pick up that one that I'm missing. But we'll start with Dead Shall Dead Remain. This is their first album from the year 2000, the futuristic year of 2000. This came out on Death Vomit Records, which was a division of Necropolis Records. I love Necropolis Records. I don't recall having anything else from Death Vomit Records, so this is pretty cool. And Impaled are a great death metal band. You don't hear too much from them as of late. I know they had like a they had a re-recorded version of this album come out some years back, but that was the last time I had heard anything from them. Impaled are they're kind of a carcassy sounding death metal band, but not really, like, without the grind. If you took out the early grind, so more like leaning towards like the 3rd Carcass album, like Necroticism. I think Impaled sound like Necroticism era Carcass, and I've just always really loved this band. Then, so I don't have their 2nd album, I just learned this morning, but I do have their 3rd album, Death After Life, from 2005. This actually came out on Century Media, so they stepped up, got signed to a bigger label. Not sure exactly when that happened. I mean, it's more of the same. I never really personally heard a lot of variation in the Impaled albums, but that's okay by me. Sometimes, a lot of times, I really don't need that, especially in the world of death metal. Some bands I like when they switch shit up. Sometimes I wish they would just not switch shit up. I also have their 2007 4th album, Last Gasp. This came out on Willowtip, so going from, I don't know if the Century Media deal didn't go well, I'm not sure. Going to Willowtip from Century Media is, I don't want to say a step down, but it's a step down in, as far as distribution goes. Willowtip do have pretty decent distribution for a small label, but Century Media, for being a metal-oriented label, it doesn't really get better as far as distribution. I'm sure you've heard Impaled. If you haven't, and you like, carcassy type death metal, definitely look them up. They're great, just good musicianship, good songwriting, gross sounding death metal. Now this next band, I'm almost embarrassed to talk about because not because they're not an awesome band, they are, but my my collection is sorely lacking, and you're going to learn what I'm talking about in just a minute. So we're going to be talking about Impaled Nazarene. I got a small stack of their albums. Despite I've liked this band for a long time, I'm not sure why my collection is so weak when it comes to their material. They have a shitload of albums. Yeah, in case you didn't know, they formed in 1990 in Finland. I think they have like 13 or 14 albums now. The earliest thing I have from them is this live album from 2005. Death Comes in 26 Carefully Selected Pieces. It's a really, really good live album. It pretty much encapsulates everything they had done up until this point. It's got a lot of songs, 26 songs, in case you didn't guess that. And yeah, it came out on Osmos Productions. Osmos has put out most of their stuff, if not all of it. I think they might have some smaller odds and ends that, but they've been signed to Osmos. I think, if I remember correctly, since the beginning, at least their first full-length album. And I believe they're still signed to Osmos. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like I might be, but that's what my brain is telling me. Next thing I have from them is their 8th album from 2003. We're talking about All That You Fear. Now, this era of Impaled Nazarene is good. It's not quite as punk-oriented as like their first album, or even maybe their first 2 or 3. Their first album is strong punk leanings. They would get a little bit more black metal sounding. They would start adding like thrash influences, even doom influences here and there. I feel like on their most recent album, they kind of made a almost return to more of just a black metal sound. But this middle era is, I would say, like a black metal with maybe a little bit of rock and roll type swagger, maybe a little black and roll, I guess you could say. Some doom, some thrash, but not as punk leaning as their really early stuff. It's still good. I don't really dislike any era of Impaled Nazarene, but I do, like most people are probably going to say, I do prefer their first like 3 albums. But they're a quality band that I think I've gotten at least some enjoyment out of everything I've ever heard from them, including these mid to later albums. Then I have their 9th album from 2006, Patria, Finlandia. Osmos Productions again. This album, I feel like, is maybe a little bit more melodic, like a little bit more melodic black metal type stuff going on, but I really like it. This is probably one of my favorite kind of mid to later era Impaled Nazarene albums. And I have their 10th album from 2007. I also really like this one a lot. I'm talking about Manifest. I actually probably like this a little bit more than their last 2. Yeah. And the last thing I have from them, not the last thing I'll ever get, but the last thing I have currently, their 12th full-length album from 2014. We're talking about Vigorous and Liberating Death. Some really cool cover art there. Yeah, this was a good album. I listened to this quite a bit when it came out. And the last band and last album I'll be showing in this video, we're talking about Germany's Imperium Decadens with Dis Manibus. I've talked about this album multiple times on this channel before because I really like them. This is a 2-piece formed in Germany in 2004. This is their 5th album from 2016. I don't have their first 4, which I really wish that I did. I take that back. Actually, I think I do have their 4th album. But anyway, this is where we stop today. I really do try to steer people in the direction of them because I feel like, yes, they have had a decent amount of buzz in their career. I mean, they've been signed lately. They've been signed to Season to Miss Records, which is a fairly big at this point metal label. it's just, I mean, it's just really, really good kind of I guess you could say atmospheric black metal. I can't really think of a band to compare them to necessarily. It's just really good. They're good musicians. They're good songwriters. This is just some really nice, melancholic, fairly atmospheric black metal, and I encourage anyone, any fan of black metal, to at least check them out, especially if you're open-minded. You're not only about the super raw necro stuff, and you're into the more kind of moody, atmospheric stuff. Definitely check out Imperium Decadens, and I'll be showing more from them in a probably my next CD video. You guys can probably expect to hear from me in a couple of days. I do have some new stuff to show, so I'll probably do that sometime this weekend. It's Friday right now. I'm on my lunch break at work, so I guess I better get back to that fucking bullshit. But anyways, as always, guys, thanks for stopping by. We will talk soon. Cheers.